Hi, this is Sue Greenwald. I'm with awakenstories.com. I'm here today to tell you some fun stories with an old friend of mine, Nicole Coco LaMaina. Hey, Nicole, how are you?
Hey Sue, I'm doing great.
Yeah,
How are you today?
I'm doing good, and I'm so glad to see you again. We've been friends for 10 to 15 years, probably. I don't even know how long. And Nicole, I'm going to just call you Coco because it's easier.
Yeah, that's fine. Yes.
Yeah, Coco came out to Sedona. I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago. We hang out every time that she comes out, and we were talking about some of the stories that we both had. So I thought this would be so much fun to interview you and hear some of your stories.
Oh, thank you so
Yeah,
much.
yeah,
I'm so excited to share some of my paranormal stories with
yeah,
you. Um, and I had a wonderful time when we visited
yeah,
Sedona. We did so
yeah,
many different things, and it truly was magical.
yeah. There is
Uh,
so much fun here to be had if when you have a great week and you get outside and all that, you have people to do it with. It's great.
yes, and
Yeah,
well, like-minded people that have
yeah.
similar interests makes it even better. Like
Yeah,
so.
yeah. So I had a cool story in Sedona. I was swimming down at the creek last week. I think it was last Wednesday. And there's a lot of hummingbirds here in general. So whenever I swim, I'm usually hovered by a hummingbird. Like they just hover over you. And it's just magical because you're in this beautiful life force filled water, looking up at a hummingbird in the beautiful blue sky. Well, last Wednesday, I thought it was a hummingbird and I watched it. And then it went over and landed on some rocks so I could clearly see it. And it came up and down a few times and landed on the rocks. And I was like, that's not a hummingbird. That's a fairy, right? So there was no bird body. It was like a star shape. It was moving fast. And so I saw a fairy last Wednesday afternoon. Super cool. And of course, I'm in the water. So I just enjoyed the show. I didn't take a picture or anything of it.
Oh my gosh, you have to tell me. I have a different fairy story
Okay.
as well, but what did it look like?
Well, it was small and it was moving fast. You know how hummingbirds their wings beat so fast. It was the same kind of a concept. This one was maybe just a few inches high, like maybe 3 inches high, and it was
Hmm.
just a star shape, like a human body, if you will, but moving fast. Everything was moving fast. And usually, when you see a hummingbird, of course, you see the body and the head. There was no bird body or head. It was like a humanoid with the fast moving everything. So that was cool.
And do you did other people see it? That's what I want to know.
There were other people there, but literally they were all like one person had a towel over his face, one person was in a hammock. So, no, I was the only one. And by the time I realized what it was, I didn't scream or anything because, I didn't want to scare it away. I couldn't grab my phone. I
Okay.
just was like, oh my God, it was so cool. And then I wanted it to come back, but, isn't that
Yes.
exciting? Yeah, yeah.
No, I get it. I'll share my story with you too.
All
Um,
right.
One of my friends, an old neighbor that I used to live with in Schwenksville, it was about maybe this time of the year. No, maybe, excuse me, maybe it was last fall. We chose to walk, I think it was like a Sunday, and it was kind of right before dusk, right on the Perkiomen Trail. And I went to visit her at where we used to live in Schwenksville at the old condos. And she's like, "Oh, I'll take you on this trail." I'm like, "Okay, Jen." We go on the trail. It gets real dark, and the sunset, and we were seeing, they were fireflies, but all of a sudden, but there weren't many. It was just very few. But then all of a sudden, what I thought was a firefly, but was about as big, I want to say a cigar, had a cigar type body with like a fluorescent green yellow
Mm.
that had these wings that were fluttering. And it was kind of weaving in between us and around us going over this one bridge. And I'm like, because I'm thinking, fireflies are little. Even
Yeah.
dragonflies are not that big. And I don't know a species of dragonfly that potentially could fluoresce like that. So I had no explanation. And I'm like, Jen, and my friend Jen, she's kind of magical. She practices Wicca and stuff like that. And so she's open to, different dimensional things. And she's like, I think you're right. I think they're fairies.
Wow.
And they were like flying all about us. Not many. There was only one that I recognized. But it was big, and you said 3 inches, I guess. Yeah, maybe it was like that long, maybe like as long as a cigar. But I was just taken aback. I was just taken aback. I can't even,
Yeah.
I can't
Yeah.
even explain it.
Yeah.
That it was so big and huge, and that it was glowing green.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy moly. I don't know. I just never saw anything like it. And
Were the
so,
wings fluttering, like you said, like slow, or was it a fast, like whatever you want to call this?
no, it was fluttering.
Because
It was,
mine was like moving fast like this, because that's why I assumed it was a hummingbird, because we've got hummingbirds all over all the time. They're cool to watch. But this one, like when I saw the shape of the body or the lack of the bird body, it took me like a few seconds to process. I'm like, that is not a hummingbird. So that was cool.
right. No,
Yeah.
yes. And this stuff is just inexplicable,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
Um, and then you're just like in wonder because you're like, whoa.
Yeah. In 2012 or 13, I had rented this condo, and it had a big picture window in the living room. And one night I came home, and it was like a spring night. It was gorgeous out, spring, summer. And I opened the blinds, and I've never seen anything like this. Fireflies are beautiful to watch, but usually you see one blink and then another one blink. It's a few feet away, and they blink kind of slowly and they fly, and they're just pretty and kind of quiet. And I saw so many brightly lit beings in a condensed, my picture window was maybe 6 or 8 feet wide, a condensed space. It was insane. Like you could have put your hands out and grabbed thousands of them. So I don't know if I think they were fairies. There were so many of them lit up, flying around fast, but thousands in a condensed space. So they weren't spread out like a normal firefly would be. And of course, I didn't think to get my phone because I was like, ugh, you know. And so what I did is I called my friend and said, get outside and look because I'm seeing something really cool right now. Yeah.
Where was that?
That was in Douglasville, Pennsylvania.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
And my townhouse backed up to a little strip of woods, and we often got real fireflies, drifting through. But there were thousands where there might have only been five, on a normal night. Thousands lit up, moving fast. So I got to think they were fairies as well. That was really cool.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, they do say the veil is thinning interdimensionally.
Well, I think the more people awaken and the higher the consciousness level is, the more you can see. That's probably been there anyway, right in front of us,
Okay.
the more
Yeah.
we're able to see. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree.
Yeah. And I know when you were here, we were talking about Bigfoot, I think. And I said last August, I had a Bigfoot outside my bedroom window. Did I tell you that story?
Yes. Tell me
Yeah.
that again.
So it was last August, and I'm in the middle of sleeping deeply, which is a shocker right there. And I heard what I'll call a chuffing sound. So for those that have cats, like a big cat makes a sound. It's kind of a heavy breathing, like growly kind of way that they breathe. And I sat up and I'm like, holy moly, I'm in bed like, and it's really dark. Like when it gets dark here, it's dark. So pitch black. I turned on every light in the house and I was shaking like this because of the adrenaline. But I heard this like chuffing sound. And at first I thought it was a mountain lion. We do have them here. Then I'm like, no, that was a bear. But I knew by the voice, it was big, physically big. I knew it when I woke up. And so I turned every light on in the house and I was like, what if it jumps through the window and all that? I'm freaking out. And then I calmed myself down. And then I did not go outside because it was dark. The next morning I did go outside to look for footprints and, whatever tracks. I often do that at night because we have all sorts of creatures in the yard and there were no tracks. But then first I thought it was a mountain lion because of the sound. And then I'm like, no, it was bigger. It had to be a bear. And I kept flip-flopping between those and I knew neither was right, but I couldn't figure it out. And then I was talking with somebody about Bigfoot and I'm like, oh my God, that was Bigfoot. It hits me like a ton of bricks. And then I called some of my Jedi friends and I told them the story and they said, yeah, it was a Bigfoot. And next time he wants bananas and watermelon. So I will be honest, I had bananas in my hand one night, but I didn't go out with them. Like I was a little bit afraid, so I haven't given him bananas or watermelon yet because it was kind of a little scary, mostly because it was dark and I was shocked out of sleep,
Wow.
Yeah. And I think we also were talking about Bigfoot. I was in Mount Shasta.
I asked a question though. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Did you see any like footprints or anything like that?
Nothing.
Okay.
No. When I was in Mount Shasta, I did a retreat there in 2019, and I had interviewed Daniel James, who's on this channel, and he talked about several of his Bigfoot experiences, and he had several there when we were all together. But I stayed in a different house, and my bedroom was on the second floor. There was a window with a little roof that led down to the first floor. And the Bigfoot would be out at night throwing little pebbles up at my windows. And I knew it was them. And I'd look out the windows and I didn't see them with my eyes, but I knew they were there. And so that happened 2 or 3 nights in a row where they would throw pebbles at my window. And I was okay with it, but there was no interaction for me. Mm-hmm. And then the next night it was an insectoid that was out there and I was shut the windows, shut the blinds, I was like, nope. So I could feel a different shift of the energy. But my friends that lived, had the house down the street, Daniel and his group, every night they were out giving the big feet. They basically saw them. They saw them shape shift. They heard them out in the woods pounding on the trees and stuff. So they brought them food every night and the food was gone in the morning. And the last day, I think it was, Daniel got like a piece of bark that was stuck into the ground. So like every day we'd all go over and look at this tree to see what was left by the big feet, So it was like we had a little project going. It was really fun.
Well, it sounds like it.
Yeah.
About the insectoid. What did it look like?
Well, it was kind of in the wooded area and I knew it was there and I was scared. So that's why I shut the windows. And the comfort of a sheet over your head. That one I did not see, but I knew it was there. And for some reason I was afraid of it. I've seen them before and, they just, it depends if they're in human format or where. I've seen them at my expo, walking around in human form, and they've been benevolent. They've been friendly, and they just have like big eyes, and they're usually really bubbly, perky people. And so I've seen them before that way, but like I said, they were in the woods that night, maybe a couple nights in a row, and I was afraid. So,
okay.
Yeah. And what I said to Daniel on the video was like, I don't care what it is. If it's in the woods at night, you get scared,
Yeah.
No matter how friendly it is, but I don't want to see things popping out at me at night.
Anybody wants that,
Yeah.
That's interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
So cool that you got to do that.
Yep.
And
So
that
tell
was,
me,
yeah,
tell
okay.
me a couple more of your stories. You've got a
Okay,
lot of them.
I do. I was a paranormal investigator with the National Paranormal Research Group of Nashville between the years of 2007 and 2008 when I lived in Clarksville, Tennessee. And we did a lot of different investigations, indoors, outdoors. We would go to parks, farms, things
Yeah.
of that nature,
Yeah.
homes, people's businesses, um, a lot of Civil War mansions, and various mansions
Yeah.
around
Yeah.
Nashville. And this one investigation we did, it was kind of in the country, and somebody converted an old home into it was like a cottage into like a gift store and like a gift shop. And so they were having some activity there. They wanted us to investigate. So we would go. We always did every room 2 by 2, just to be safe. And I remember I was following our our organizer. I believe she had a camera in one hand and a tape recorder in the other. And I think she had a bag on her too. Anyway, her hands were full. And she's walking, and a lot of us were sensitives and very intuitive and a lot of psychic. We would get a lot of vision too. And she said, the woman of the house is here, meaning like in spirit form. And I'm like, oh, is she? And she's like, yeah, she's getting a kick out of us being here. And I'm like, get out of town. And she's like, she just grabbed my hair. And like,
Ooh.
she's holding a camera and a tape recorder in her hand. And Jenna had long blonde hair. And a piece of her hair looked like it was getting pulled straight into the air like this. And my jaw dropped. I was like, I didn't, I was like, what the heck is happening? And I was like, this stuff is real. I'm like, this
Yeah.
is no joke. Like,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
no props or anything like that. Like, something just took her hair, a strand of her hair, and lifted it up and then put it down. And
Right.
she said it was the woman of the house, I guess, who
Right.
owned it before many years ago. We don't know
Yeah.
her name was
Yeah.
or anything. So that was shocking. And then, what is another story? Another story, we did an investigation in one of the parks in Nashville that had a Civil War battle, and you had to climb up the hill, and it was in the woods, kind of. And once you got to the top of the hill, they had a little section, I believe it was cement, and they had, what do you call them? Benches around that you can look around and stuff. So me and my friend, one of the investigators, Jamie, we went up and we were just, asking questions. We had a tape recorder. We were doing an EVP, which is extra voice phenomenon session. And then, so while we were there, we kept getting visceral reactions of the battle.
Ooh.
So I was getting a feeling like I was getting stabbed in my legs. Like it could have been a bayonet. I don't know, but I literally had to get out of there because it was like too painful.
Mm-hmm.
And then I believe Jamie was having a feeling like he was like shot in the heart or something. So we both had to sit down on the benches and collect ourselves, asking them to leave because they were affecting us. Like, thank you so much. Like, we got the message, but you can leave now. Pretty much.
So let me ask a couple questions. Do you think that was, you in a previous lifetime that experienced the pain, like you were like kind of syncing up with that previous lifetime?
Yeah, I'm not really sure about that. I didn't get that feeling. A lot of times spirit will, and we do protective meditations before every investigation.
Yeah.
So I don't believe that it was. I believe that when spirit is trying to communicate with me, sometimes they will communicate it
Yeah.
viscerally in my
Yeah.
body.
Yeah. So sometimes it's hard to differentiate that. But what I've done in those situations where there's been, let's say, a battle. Okay. So in my travels, I've gone to places where there were Native Americans or whatever, there's been massacres, and we etherically see what's happened there and we sense it. What we do is we basically create, bring in the angels, create a vortex of light, and send all the traumatized souls to the light and ask for, the angels to come and help and let them know that they can go to the light. They can have the light. They don't need to hang around here. You know what I mean? So we've done that. A lot of times it's by chance. We'll go somewhere by chance and there's been trauma in that space. And I think that's why we've been drawn to go there. And then we try to heal the land and the people that were there previously.
Yeah, I completely agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And another really weird thing that happened that same investigation was our organizer, what do you say? De-escalated the hill or whatever before us and got to the bottom. And she kept calling our names.
Right.
And she swore, like, I think that day I had a white t-shirt and jeans on, and she swore she called my name and saw me come down the hill.
Ooh.
And she was talking to me.
And you were still at the top.
I was still at the top. It wasn't me.
Wow. That's foolish.
Yeah. So I
That's
don't know
crazy.
if it was because I don't remember other people being there when we were there.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it was like something that mimicked or replicated me.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what that was.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. After I moved from Douglasville, Pennsylvania, I rented a different townhouse, and it was beautiful and all of that. And then a few months later, I was in my living room, and there was a woman, etherically, okay, so not physically. There was a woman and a little girl in my living room, and I'm like, well, I looked at them, and I'm like thinking, like, hit the road. What are you doing here? And from that point on, there were a lot of beings that were coming through my house. In fact, I'd be in bed and I'd hear sobbing, I'd hear clunking, I'd hear banging. There was a lot of creatures and people in my house. And what I found is that a portal had been opened in my living room. So everybody just thought that they could come through. And of course, I see them and hear them, and it was quite annoying.
Wow.
So once I figured it takes me a while sometimes to figure it out. You're going around your normal life doing whatever. So once I figured out what the portal was there, I brought in a couple friends and we worked to close it, because it's not cool. I don't need that. But yeah, it was quite interesting because I'd be in bed and I'd wake up and I'd hear sobbing. And, I live alone, so that it couldn't happen, So I hear clunking, I hear stuff falling down, and then I saw this woman and the little girl, and then I had some more experiences that were a little bit more intense. So it's so interesting, that it's like the dimensional layers mesh somehow.
Yes. I mean, it's fascinating, but it can be disturbing.
Yeah.
In your life at the same token,
Yeah, especially when you're not expecting it. Like you walk into your living room and there's somebody in the chair. It's like, hello, what are you doing here? So I can describe them, but they were just sitting there and I don't know what they wanted. So I just thought that was interesting.
That is very interesting.
Yeah, so I of course send them all to the light. It's like, just go to the light and you can have what you want,
Yeah, that's the best. That's the best thing that they can do. And I used to go to Gettysburg almost every 2 years by myself. I would feel guided to go there just by myself for a weekend. People thought I was nuts. But before I even get into that, because I have other stories, but I just remembered I went to my timeshare for the first time. The original destination is in Orlando, Florida, which I had never been. And I went, And then my college bestie, she couldn't meet me until like a day or two later. And so I was there by myself in my condo and just maxing and relaxing. It was just so nice to relax. And I think I was watching cable, which I was so excited because I don't think I had cable at the time. So I was just watching cable.
Yeah.
And the kitchen had a motion censored kitchen light. And I was thinking it had a short because I'm always trying to roll out like, basic normal things to explain away why things are happening.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah.
And the light kept going on after I was already sitting on the couch. And I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, what is activating it? So I was trying to determine if it was the air conditioning or something that, that's energy. Maybe it's sensing the motion of the air. And so I was trying to feel for the air and that, and I'm like, that's not lining up. And I couldn't figure out why it kept going on. And as soon as my college bestie, because she's real sensitive, she gets there, she goes, Nicole, there's a woman and she's crying. She's on the stairs and she keeps going in the kitchen. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, she's the one that keeps making the motion. She's making the lights turn on. I'm like, what the hell? Yeah. So, and it did feel a little sad in there too. So, it's time to clear it out.
Well, if you ever have that, just send them to the light, like have the angels and the ascended masters surround them and ask them to be escorted to the light and to stay as long as necessary. So, and convince them that they can have that. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So,
yes.
Yeah.
And, latter years, I learned more of what to do in that situation.
Yeah.
So when I would go to Gettysburg, I would just be in a flow state and just be guided to where I needed to go.
Yeah.
And so I'll be like, oh, well, let me just walk in town.
Yeah.
Well, let me just walk on this battlefield. Oh, I'm supposed to take a midnight ghost tour? Okay, let me sign up for that. It's on the covered bridge ghost tour. Okay, I've never seen that. Go by myself. I meet amazing people.
Yeah.
And the one woman is elderly. She's an energy worker. And she asked for me to come over. She didn't know me from Adam. Can you come over with me and hold my hands? There's a soldier right here and he was playing with her hair. And he said he's really confused because I guess he hasn't seen people or whatever. And he was probably attracted to her light. And she said, can you help me send him to the light? And I'm like, absolutely. I'm like, there's a reason I went on this tour. Now I know why. I said, I'm an energy worker.
Yeah.
So I said, let's do it. So we both closed our eyes, held our hands, we meditated, and then we sent him to the light. And then whatever soldiers were around too. That's what we did like all night. Every individual ghost or whatever that we encountered, we were doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was like, this was fruitful. There was a reason why I was guided to come here alone. Yeah.
I did that down in Mexico. I took a group down there, a bunch of years ago, 6 or 8 years ago. And many of the pyramids, they are not always like high vibration anymore, So there would be massacres, there'd be, torture and all sorts of stuff going there, war. So we would send the beings to the light and clear those areas as well. So that it always made you feel good. Like if you saw them, especially leave, it just made you feel like you did a good job,
Right. Like I don't want them to suffer any more than they need to. It's time to move on, if that is, your wish and you have that opportunity. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And I've been to Gettysburg a few times, and like when you see like where Pickett's charge was, like how big the field was, and I forget the number of soldiers that died there, but I think it was 200,000. Is that too many? I don't remember actually.
I can't remember.
It's huge. And the whole area could use tons and tons of work cleaning, and clearing. But there's so many other areas that we don't know about in our history where, the indigenous people have been, massacred or something's happened there. So there's a lot of opportunity to send them to the light.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you're also
Yeah.
called to do
Yeah.
that work as
Yeah.
well. I didn't
It's,
realize
it's,
that. So that's really
it's
cool.
never planned. It's never planned. It's like, well, we should go over here and have a picnic or do a meditation. And we don't know why. And then things like develop. And then we're like, oh, that's why we were called there. And it's really exciting, especially afterwards. You're like, wow, that was magnificent. You can't plan for it.
No,
You just have
no.
to be open for it. Mm,
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Um,
I know you were talking about the paranormal investigation with the tape recorder and stuff. There used to be this show on cable. I think it was called Ghost Adventures. I'm not sure if that's the name,
okay.
but my daughter says you've got to watch the show, and it was horrific. So there were 3 or 4 guys. They were idiots. They were horrible. They would scream at the ghosts. They would taunt them. They would do all this crazy stuff, and it's like they don't even know anything. They don't know anything, yet they have a show. Like, how can that be? You know?
Exactly. Like you're scratching your head and like
Yeah. How can that be? Yeah.
just to elicit a response like in
Yeah.
3D
Yeah.
to get good ratings. And it's a little, to me, it's very disrespectful. And
Totally.
I
They
had
would
to stop watching all that.
they would scream at the ghosts, and they would like taunt them, and I don't even remember what. And I didn't like the way the show was done anyways, but it was very low vibration and horribly done. So me and my daughter would sit in horror, and of course we'd watch it. I'm like, I can't see that anymore, you know. But
Yeah,
I don't know if it's still on or whatever, but it's all about ratings, right?
I know, right? Exactly. I don't even know I have cable, so I
Yeah.
don't know if it's
Yeah.
on.
And I've had beings touch me, like like I'll feel a hand on my back or whatever, and I'm like, it's okay if they're benevolent, and of course I like it better when I'm not in the dark or whatever, in the daylight hours. But sometimes I'll feel something touch me, and I know it's a person or a being.
Yes, I've
Yeah.
had I one of my fellow investigators from Tennessee came to visit me here, and we toured Philadelphia in the summer,
Yeah.
and we went to Alfred's Alley, and I'm like, Jamie, I said, it was hot, so I probably had like a sleeveless shirt on or
Yeah.
whatever. Went to
Yeah.
this one area, and I think there was a bench and everything, and I'm like, I don't know what it is. I said, I feel cobwebs everywhere, but I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't see them. And where are the spiders? I'm like, I don't see these cobwebs. He's like, honey, they're all around us. This is, I don't know. I guess that's what maybe ectoplasm might feel like. But when you feel the cobwebs
Yeah.
on you, that means that it's them. And I had no idea.
Yeah.
I was like, what the heck? So they
Yeah.
were all around. And then the second time I sensed it, I sat on a bench in front of the ice cream place on the main street in Gettysburg.
Yeah.
I'm eating my ice cream, and all of the cobweb feeling was wrapping all around my legs. And I'm like, did I just step in a spider web? And here I am looking for the spiders and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
No spider webs, nothing.
Yeah.
Spiders. It was spirit energy again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have that a lot. I have cats that are, deceased. They're still with me, and
Yes.
I'll hear them. I know they're there, but even sometimes when I'm driving, I will feel them around my legs and ankles, and I'm like, it's a little weird, but I'm used to it now.
Yes. Yes. No, I agree.
Yeah.
My one cat was not with me anymore, but they weren't dead. But
Yeah.
they were with another family, but
Yeah.
would always, another family I didn't know. But
Yeah.
Max would come and visit me.
Yeah.
I knew
Yeah.
because he was playing with like a barrette or dropping a pin
Yeah.
upstairs. And when people that knew Max are visiting, he'll come and he'll do the same thing. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I know I'm not effing going nuts right now. I said, please tell me you hear what I'm hearing, because
Yeah. Yeah.
and it sounds like somebody's dropping a barrette or a pin on the floor. Like he
It's
would
so
always
funny.
play with my stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is wild. Like, I'm so happy you're here to witness this with me.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool.
So, yeah.
So what other cool things did you guys discover?
Well, Belmont Mansion. There's Belmont University in Nashville, and it's connected to the original, I guess, the Belmonts that live there, and they lived in the mansion. And my paranormal group, we did a tour there with the general public. It wasn't private or anything after hours. It was just something for us to do, like
Yeah.
an excursion.
Yeah.
We had our cameras and stuff like that. We all were spread all around because there was a lot of people there. And so I'm walking around, there's a tour guide talking. They bring us to the one room where it has the fireplace. They always have the portrait, usually of the family members, over the fireplace. And it was the woman of the house. I forget what her name was. But she had a black dress with a white collar, and I believe her hair was severely placed in a bun. And she had dark hair and dark eyes. And the whole time, I see everybody has different abilities. I don't typically see full body apparitions when I'm sensing a ghost. For some reason, I see their light. So I'll see them either as an orb, different colored light, or like a column of light. So I kept seeing this green column of light kind of traveling throughout the house, like hovering. It would be like
Yeah.
going room to room, and I'm like fascinated because people are probably like, what is she looking at? And here I am, I'm like following it with my eyes like that. And then I see my friend Jamie peeking around like a crowd of people, and he's going like this. And I'm like, what are you looking at? And he's like, I'm seeing that woman in that picture. She's walking all through here. And I was like, oh my gosh. I said, I'm seeing a green column of light. That must be her.
Wow.
So I was like, it was just wild how we all had different senses and abilities.
Yeah. Yeah. So the way you sense something is different than the way I sense it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's why I love doing things in a group, because we all have different abilities. So we might go somewhere and one person will say this and the other one will build on it. And we get a fuller story than if you're, the only one there trying to figure it out. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love that.
Me too. I feel like we're our own little team, like our, we're like that, not the X-Men, but you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. So how long, you were only in the paranormal group for like a year?
Yeah, like 2 years,
That's
almost
cool.
2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I ended up training people too.
Yeah.
And I think I was doing some policy writing for them as well.
Oh.
And then I did some follow-up. We really wanted to help the community.
Right.
So, the organizer, she had her master's in psychology and a PhD in metaphysics from India. And she was a nurse like me. So, and I worked in behavioral health for years. So if people were distraught or having a hard time dealing with the happenings in their home, we would try to get them support.
Yeah.
So we would refer them, because sometimes, down south they're religious. And so sometimes we would refer them to their church or the minister at their church, or, counseling. And then we would do follow-up and reach back out and see how they were doing afterwards. So we would come to do the investigation. And then if they, depending upon their belief system, if they wanted us to come in and do spirit eradication, we would do that. And it was in the rights of like a Catholic, I'm like Catholico, like a Catholic exorcism / and then we would do like, or Buddhist rite, where we would do the spirit eradication of it.
Okay. All right.
So
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, we just got a lot of data on the film, the video, and photographs too. And then we had a professional photographer from Ireland who would make the determination, is this an anomaly? Or like, and then we would corroborate it with our psychics. What were they sensing, feeling, hearing, touching, seeing at that time when that photo was taken?
It's super interesting, isn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
I went to a party. Let's just say it was 2018. It was summer, and my daughter and I were leaving, and a woman came up out of the blue and asked my daughter these questions. But she said that they were having trouble in their home, and their daughter was being attacked by an entity. And my daughter said, "Yeah, that's true. You need to get her out of there. It's a piece of furniture." And as the conversation unfolded, the woman showed us some pictures on our phone, and there was a dresser. It was like an antique, but on the corner, instead of having a straight line corner, you could see a like a spider webby filmy being attached to this dresser. Okay. And my daughter said, that is a being, that's a negative being, and you need to get that piece of furniture out of your house immediately. Well, the woman was not hearing what we were saying. She kept over explaining, and I wonder about this and blah, 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 blah. So we told her the same thing several times, but you could clearly see it in the photo. And, it was like I was out in the street, and finally I went to my friend and I said, okay, this is what's happening. She's not hearing us. Her daughter's being attacked and hurt by this entity. You need to get that piece of furniture out of the house. Please help her do that, because she wasn't hearing us.
I wonder where
And
she was stuck. That's
yeah,
interesting.
and one time, a friend of mine worked with, I'm going to say it was autistic kids or whatever. I'm trying to remember the story, but she showed me, it was a little boy, maybe 2, 3, 4, and there was on the pillow next to him, there was a being attached to the pillow. It had eyes and a face and a mouth and everything. It looked like it was made of cobwebs, if you will. Okay, it wasn't like solid, but you could clearly see it. And that being was attacking the little boy. All right, so bad energy.
Now that's very interesting. Thank you for
Yeah,
validating the whole cobweb thing. I didn't know
yeah,
that it was a thing.
yeah,
Now you're telling me because you're saying it's manifesting in photos.
yeah,
It's like a cobwebby being.
yeah.
That's very interesting.
Well, and
And
now see, we've got the veil thinning. Our phones are getting better. And because we all have phones on our camera now, we're taking pictures of everything. And people are seeing what's in the pictures. They look at them and they can expand the screen and they're like, wow. So now we're able to see even more than we could before, right? And a
yeah.
higher quality. Um, all right. Last week I was at a drum circle out on the rocks at the full moon. And I was
Mhm.
just taking pictures of the moon coming up because it was so beautiful. But yesterday I was looking at the pictures and there was an orb, several orbs, but a couple of them that were moving around. And so you can see them moving. And then there was a really big one in front of the rocks. So that was just cool. And I've had that so many times in my pictures just by chance. I've caught these like shapes and these crazy things. It's very interesting, you know? And yeah, I just came across some on my phone that I took a few years ago in Sedona that
Mhm.
are crazy awesome. And I'm like, well, I should probably put those out on my website because they're really unique,
Yeah.
So you've got the orbs, but now we're getting other shapes like ships and beams that
Cool.
are very cool. Yeah, very cool. So I will put these out there now that
Yeah.
I'm thinking of it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely do that.
yeah.
Um,
For me, the problem is the pictures are all over on my computers or on the phones. They're not like an organized fashion. So it's only when I'm going through them, I'm like, oh, I forgot about these.
yes. No, I
Yeah,
totally agree.
yeah,
Some of
yeah.
the fascinating ones that I find, like I tried to make a business card out of it. I went
Ooh,
to the Brandywine River Museum once in the maybe March or something
yeah,
years ago. And something told me that I have to go outside and connect with nature after I was done doing the
yeah,
museum inside. So I did. And I love the water. So I was
yeah,
drawn to the stream or the creek next to it.
yeah,
And I just was just thanking, nature, everything for what it was. And I took a picture. Something told me to take a picture. So I went to take a picture and I didn't know if it was the sun, but there was a bright light that blinded me while I took the photo, which I
Wow.
was just taking
Yeah.
it with the creek or whatever
Yeah.
in the woods. And
Wow.
all of a sudden, an arc of pink ray of light was seen in the picture with a rainbow patch that showed up.
Wow.
And some people said it's probably elementals or things populating in from the fairy kingdom that were there, letting you know they were there. And I'm like, but it's interesting because a lot of things do come in through the portal of the sun
Yeah.
as well.
Of
And I wasn't
course.
sure why
Yeah.
that big bright light blinded me. So when I took the picture, I had no idea what I was taking a picture of. I couldn't see anything.
Yeah. Wow, that's very interesting. If you've come across any, pictures like that, send them over, and I'll put them out on the website and on the other social media sites. It's very interesting to see what comes across. If I can get those pictures, like if I remember to do it, I'll put mine out tonight, because there were some crazy pictures we took that, like we don't see with our eyes, but we could see these geometric shapes out on the rocks, just sitting there. So I'm not sure if they're beans, ships, or both.
Oh, very interesting. Please
Yeah.
do geometric
Yeah.
shapes, because my friend and I were just talking tonight
Yeah.
about we've been seeing a lot of them.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
just in my hallway today,
Yeah.
I saw
Yeah.
a vertical, clear, 3D rectangles,
Yeah.
2 of them, not fully formed, but they were hanging in the hallway
Mm.
while I'm in the bathroom.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
wow,
Interesting.
sometimes I see different lights. And then my friend, she's been seeing a rectangle that looks like a shield over near her third eye.
Wow. Interesting.
Then I'm like, look up the platonic solids. They might have something to teach you.
Yeah.
Or, yeah, I mean, there's so much with sacred geometry going on.
Yeah. They could be ships, they could be beans. We don't know, and I think we have to look at it on a case by case basis, look at the photo. So I will put mine out there tonight. I'll do that tonight.
Yeah, that would be great. And I
Yeah.
was doing an energy treatment, Arcturian healing once. I can't remember I may have been running the diagnostic cube, but the cube, is that called the regeneration of cells? I can't remember. But a trapezoidal being descended in my mind's eye that was silvery metallic.
Yeah.
And they had a trapezoidal head.
Mhm.
And then they had a rhomboid appearance for the body.
Wow.
It was like 2 parts. It was a rhomboid. It was a trapezoid for the head. It was a rhomboid for the chest, and then another rhomboid for the bottom. And then they had different, it looked like a robot. I don't know if it was AI, but the way it presented, but it was powerful. And
was it metallic looking, or did it look like it had, a flesh body?
It was metallic.
Wow.
It looked like robotic.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it was AI or if it was just some type of galactic being that we just don't know of. Because I hear there's geometric galactics that are out there that people talk about.
There's more stuff than we could even imagine, I mean, we can't even imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it was just incredible.
Yeah. So I think we met at the Arcturian, either the healing classes or the Arcturian upgrades or the spoon bending. I don't actually remember exactly.
I met you at your yoga studio in Malvern called Thrive, and I took Arcturian healing method level 2.
Yeah. Okay.
That's where I met you.
Yeah.
With Jean, Dr. Jean. Yeah.
Yeah. It was awesome. Those were the good old days, right?
Yeah. The good old days. Yeah. Was that like 2015 maybe?
Yeah. It was, probably around then. As a matter of fact, one of the people from the Arcturian upgrade that I hosted back at that studio lives in Sedona. I ran into her and I'm like, what are you doing out here? So she built a house and it's gorgeous. She had me over and we reconvened our communication, and then the pandemic hit. So we've texted a little bit, but we haven't hung out really since then. So that was cool. And I've run into several people that know Jean Ang. while I'm on the trail. And
Oh, really?
I'll get talking and I'll say, do you know Jeannie? Just by their necklace or whatever they've got on. It's so
Uh,
interesting. And we
like the
know,
Jessica Vices, like what is that called? The one that everybody has? Is it
yeah,
you
yeah,
have seen the
yep,
biosignature one?
yep. So I've seen several people that know Jeannie here in Sedona that I didn't know initially. And then I'll say, well, do you know so-and-so? Do you know so-and-so? And we know common people. So that's kind of fun, you know?
I love it. We're all
Yeah,
family.
yeah, yeah.
That's so great.
Excellent. Any other cool stories for us?
Yes. Um,
Okay.
one last story.
All right.
So it was, and I hope I'm not going too long. I'm sorry if I'm,
Nope, it's
I'm
cool.
going
We're cool.
okay, so okay. This was a very intense investigation. It was in the woods somewhere up in Tennessee. So it was probably like an hour and a half away.
Yeah, yeah.
I think the mother asked us to come. She had two twin sons. One was in the military and then one lived at home. I think they were both dating the same woman unbeknownst to each other.
Okay.
And um the one that was in the military came home and they said that they were trying to figure out who had shot him because it was on the property. He was in
Oh,
an SUV. But see, I didn't know this. Like we
right.
go in cold to every investigation. We
Right.
don't know any information so that we don't have
A bias,
a
right?
bias or
Right.
any preconceived ideas that could
Yeah,
alter the data.
yeah.
So there were strong EMF fields everywhere, and that was just from some of their setup, from the
Right,
refrigerator to some of the appliances. They were kind of throwing us off with
right, right.
really heavy EMF energy. But also, when spirits manifest, they can draw off of that to make things move. There was temperature fluctuations that we noted in their garage. Sometimes our thermometers got really hot in the 90s. And then other times it would drop real cold to like
Hmm.
60 degrees. Like there shouldn't be such a fluctuation, right?
Right, right.
And then she had some of her one son that was in the military that died, which I didn't know. She just said, oh, this is a pocket watch. And I'm like,
Right,
okay. So I grabbed the pocket watch.
right.
And as soon as I grabbed onto the pocket watch, the whole room was spinning.
Oof.
And I got so dizzy. I felt like I was in the twilight zone and I had to sit down because I couldn't stand. And then I had a huge crushing headache and it was on the right side of my head. And I was like, what the hell is happening?
Right.
And I didn't understand it. And I had to let go of the watch. As soon as I let go of the watch, a lot of those feelings dissipated. And then I got back to normal. Well, at the end, we go and debrief at a Waffle House to figure out all the missing pieces of the story.
2 for 1, you get to eat waffles.
We always went to Cracker Barrel. Post, we went to the Waffle House.
Yeah.
So we go there, and it turns out that they found out that the son that was in the military was in his SUV on the property in the back of the house, and they found him dead, shot in the driver's seat on the right side of his head, and they found the door open. The passenger door was open.
Wow. Wow. So did they record you when you held the pocket watch or whatever, kind of spinning and like having this reaction? Did they get you on film or anything?
No.
Mm.
No.
Too bad.
But
Yeah.
it was so intense.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever experienced anything like that.
Yeah.
And it hurt so bad that
Yeah.
now I understand that the guy was trying to communicate that he was shot in the head, and I
Yeah.
didn't. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
that's what being shot in the head feels like. Great, you know.
So,
So
the person that called you in didn't tell you any of this, but why did they call you in? Like, what did they say when they called you in to come to investigate?
I can't remember the details of that. What things? I
Yeah.
don't think, and I'm not sure if things were getting moved
Yeah.
around.
Okay.
Um, something like that. But the son was probably trying to communicate with them.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
other brother too. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that happened. Yeah. And that's why like those that are energy sensitive often can't go into crowded places because of the energy. I can't go in, like, I don't like antiques to start with, like from the style perspective, but I can't go into an antique shop because of the energy there. It's very heavy usually. They're old, it's old stuff. It's got the old energy attached to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
It makes a
interesting.
difference. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's weird because when I was little, my mom always had us touring mansions when we were little because she was an antique dealer. So
Oh,
she was always
wow.
admiring all the antiques. So
Yeah.
I always was wondering what life was like back then. And I don't know, not that I don't think I was sensing ghosts at that age,
Yeah.
because I feel like I didn't have my real awakening until I was 12. So um, I was always attracted though to history
Yeah.
and things like that.
It's interesting that you go to Gettysburg so often. So perhaps you were there as a soldier or whatever, and like you're just drawn back there for some reason.
Well, it's kind of interesting because when I do go, I try to contact. There's a woman like what was it 1999? So what was that? 23 years ago. We got our Sizani Raku level 3. We studied with the Mayan priest, and so we went up to level 3 for Mayan Reiki, and which was like crystalline sound healing in the Mayan way. And so she goes a lot. She's from Ohio, one of my Sizani Raku friends, Robin. So when she goes, she usually contacts me and says, we're going to be, me and Doug, like her high school friend, they both are reenactors for the Civil War on the battlefield. And so I get invited, I do my thing, I go and I visit them on the battlefield. They do their demos. He's the surgeon that's doing all the surgeries, the amputations stuff. He does the demo. So
Yeah.
they're cooking. They have tents. They feed me. It's really nice. And
Yeah.
then sometimes I'll go take dance lessons with her
Mhm.
in town or whatever. It's so fun. And so I make a time of it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. It's just the fact that you've gone back so often. It just seems interesting. Like you probably were there before. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I could have been, but I don't feel that. Where I feel deja vu and where I lived before is when I travel overseas. And I don't really even feel at home in the United States. I feel at home when I go to Italy and Spain and Greece.
Okay. Okay.
So
Interesting.
those are the times when I get deja
Yeah.
vu, when I
Yeah.
am in the Roman ruins of the columns.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, uh, just I don't know, just certain places there. I
Yeah.
feel like it's home.
Yeah.
And
Awesome.
yeah.
Awesome. Any last stories you have, or is that it for today?
No, I think that's it.
Yep. Well, that was a lot of, nice little stories. It's been so fun talking with you. And I know that when you were here in person, we talked all week about these things. So we'll do that again. And of course, when you come out, I'm sure it'll be a whole different world then. There'll be more that's happening, more that we can talk about. It's so exciting, isn't it?
It totally is. I am so thankful and honored to be on your Awakened Story show.
Yeah.
I was just really excited. Thank
It's
you.
so fun. And again, the goal is really just to, it's interesting. These are fun and generally light stories. But what I've had, not only have I had great complimentary comments, but people are coming up to me and saying that same thing happened to me and I thought I was crazy or whatever. So it's very it's kind of supporting people in a very fun and light way. No agenda, just fun. you know? And also it hopefully will expand people's minds that a lot of the stuff we don't see or we don't hear is still out there. Just because we can't sense it doesn't mean it's not real, you know?
Yes. And maybe, just some people are more sensitive and they're able to tune
Yeah,
into
yeah,
interdimensionality better.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
it doesn't mean,
yeah,
it doesn't mean that it's not, like you said, it doesn't mean that it's not really
yeah,
happening. Just
yeah.
maybe at a different vibrational rate that other
Exactly.
people can't
The
see.
frequencies are raising as we ascend, the frequencies and the consciousness is raising. We're more aware than we ever were of stuff that was happening that's out there, you know. So we're seeing it, we're getting pictures of it, people are talking about it. It's pretty exciting, you know, because I've been kind of like doing this for a while and, quietly because I don't want people to think I'm crazy, but now I kind of don't care. If they don't know me by now, whatever, you know?
Right. No, I get it. I feel the same thing.
Yeah. Well, thank you again, Coco. It's been awesome to talk with you. I can't wait to spend more time with you.
I know, me too. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Talk to you soon.
Thank
All right.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.